Now we're live.
Now we're live. We might be live. Let us know if we're live in the comments. If we are live, I am Brandon, your author for the evening.
And I'm Adam, your not author for the evening.
You are an author, but I've never read any of your stuff.
It's true. It's true. One day, maybe, I shall be brave enough. But I need to finish the book first. That's the first step.
So we are here to live stream about the fact that we are having a very nice crowdfunding campaign. And I'm going to show off more plushies tonight, and we're going to take questions from the audience. These are non-spoiler questions.
Yes.
We will be doing, I guess that doesn't need to go to you, it needs to go somewhere. We will be doing a reveal next week of the first reading from the Secret Project. Adam's shaking his head.
I have the same settings as I did last time with the normal delay. Maybe. Okay.
Are we getting too much of a delay?
Let's try that.
Okay. We do still need to buy a new computer.
Yeah, that's on our list. Just lots going on right now. So
maybe we need to get Donald to go find you a computer. Send him out.
Now I'm seeing fixed.
Okay. I only see 4 comments so far from me, and they're all live. It's live, probably because there's the delay or something.
That's interesting. You should be getting a lot more than that.
I am not. They're all from Twitch, it looks like.
That's weird.
I don't think I'm getting... Oh, there.
Can you see those well enough?
I can. Can you? Is there any way you zoom that out at all, or...
Is that... Oh, not that.
Yes, hitting the X probably.
Bad angle.
Yeah. I can make it.
Okay. That's weird. It was
Diamond Dragon, I can see you now, but only now. I wasn't able. So I can see Twitch chat very easily, but now I can see YouTube chat.
Yeah, it's very peculiar that's not...
You had to drag over another little thing. Man, that would be handier at a higher, larger letters. Thank you, Jack, for the kind comment there. What am I signing? I am signing the Bands of Mourning leatherbound, which will be our leatherbound re-release this
later
fall.
This year.
Yeah. I need to sign 13,000 of these, I believe, so that we have enough to do 10,000 signed, because we need like overage in case there are misprints or things that need to be replaced. So that's what I'm signing. It's kind of fun that I get to do these in front of everyone because, I do know there are some out there, we've talked about it on Intentionally Blank, who use an auto pen for signing their things. You get to watch me sign tens of thousands of things, so you know that I have signed them all. If you aren't familiar, these are the actual first 16 pages. They print those early and send them to me, then I sign them, then we send them back, and then they're bound just like the normal first 16 pages into the book, except I have then signed them. How does the Cosmere end? Oh yes, non-spoiler, very easy. It ends well. How about that? Warbreaker sequel when? I don't know. Sometime. It will happen someday. But I don't promise when. Got a lot of things on my plate. So, do I make the 4 stacks equal? So what happens with these pens is, I love how these pens flow because I have kind of a fast signature, and some pens don't keep up. But that means that these flow a little more, there's a little more ink. And so if you give them a few seconds to dry, they won't leave an imprint on the back page that I'm putting on top of them. And so I do need to make them in stacks. And maybe when you get your copy, the new Saran map here, if you see a couple of extra little ink dots on it, it means I didn't wait long enough for the pen to dry. And so that is, anyway, that's how I handle it. How long will the White Sand novel be? I anticipate that being 200,000 words, so Mistborn length. So we think in word count as authors, but just a rule of thumb, like an average book is 100,000 words. That's normally what books are. That's what like Alloy of Law and Trust of the Emerald Sea, the Skyward books, they're all around 100,000 words. Epic fantasy length is usually around 170 to 250, with Mistborn at 200 being about kind of average length for a big epic fantasy. And then ginormous, you are insane length is 400,000, which is the length of the Stormlight books and Wheel of Time 4 through 6, and multiple of the Song of Ice and Fire books. So that's kind of the what are you doing, what's wrong with you length that very few books ever do. But how's Mistborn Era 3 coming along? Haven't spent a lot of time on it, to be perfectly honest, because Stormlight is dominating so much of my time. And so Era 3 is something that I'll start digging into in June, July. Really, I don't plan to write it until January 1st.
Does that feel weird to be thinking about that?
No, because all the projects that I'm planning have years in the back of my brain that I'm working on. I rarely write something that I haven't spent years mulling over.
Yeah, I guess that's true for me too, and I'm halfway through one. So.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm a little compulsive about this. Nalthus essay win. I'm sorry, Evgeny. Sometime. Arcanum Unbounded 2, except I haven't written very many stories that would go in an Arcanum Unbounded 2 because they all became secret projects. And so...
I don't think anyone's going to complain about that, though.
Ever be a book like the one from the Radiant Orders video? Probably not, but the RPG book should have a decent amount of that kind of information in it when we launch the Stormlight RPG later this year. And we're intending that at least one of those books... Oh, there's my son Dallin. He says rat and posts a rat emoji. We're intending at least one of those books to be of general interest to people who like the series, because a lot of the countries I couldn't get to in the books will have some information on, good information on all the brands of Fused, all the orders of Knights Radiant, stuff like that. That'll be fun for... Even if you don't, oh, now everyone's posting rats. So yes, my son, Dallin, he loves rats. He loves to post rat emojis. We
have a little rat train.
Yeah, he will say, he's gonna love that you guys did this. I think he calls himself Rat the Big Boy sometimes for some reason. That's just like, I'm Rat the Big Boy. And so... Yeah. He also loves turtles. Turtles are one of his other things. So.
Turtles or tortoises?
Well,
or yes? Okay.
So a tortoise is a turtle.
Oh, okay.
Right? The turtle is a
class.
A class that includes tortoises,
okay.
but not all turtles are tortoises. So he has a tortoise, but he loves all turtles, and has since he was just a little guy. Like before he could talk. And we took him to stores. If there was a turtle plushie, he walked over and grabbed it. And he would always go right for the turtle. And before he could talk, he had a turtle pillow pet.
Yep, I remember it.
That is still, his favorite of his plushies. So, yeah.
We have an interesting question from TikTok.
Yes.
What's a character you thought would be more liked or popular, if you have one?
Oh, boy. I don't know about that. I mean, I do think that the original version of Chet from Cytonic, people would like more, and they hated him, which is why I ripped him out and rewrote the book entirely. That's one of the worst reactions I've had to a character. But, of course, that's why I have beta reads and alpha reads, that when I flub up that big, then I want to know it before the book comes out, right? Generally, I have a pretty good instinct, and it's odd. In book series, if you have multiple viewpoints, there will always be more variance in what people think of the characters. For instance, in Skyward, generally the viewpoints are not the characters are not as divisive. But in Elantris or Stormlight, where the character that you love, other characters are pulling you away from to tell their stories. You will generally, whoever that character is that you love, resent the other ones a little bit more than you would in a single viewpoint narrative. But that does make people kind of like the character they like even more. It's one of those things.
Stone from the YouTube chat once said Moash? Question?
What inspiration was there for Johnny's character in Frugal Wizard? What an excellent question. So his character in Frugal Wizard, I kind of wanted to do a story about the anti-Kaladin, in that we do a lot of books, not anti-Kaladin in attitude, but we do a lot of books about people who are kind of have a natural aptitude. It's fun to write and read about people who are just good at some things. Everyone needs to have flaws and things that are holding them back also. But, I feel a little like Kaladin in that once I started writing, I took to writing really a lot. I may not have been good at it at the start, but I took to it and I found it and I loved it. What about that person? I remember it's actually Ben from How's That Ben? I went and was chatting with him one time when he was my roommate and talking about kind of, my writing projects. And this was before I was published, right? But I was so passionate about writing. And he's like, it's interesting. I've never had something like that in my life. Ben said, nothing I've ever been super passionate about, like other than, enjoying video games, which he really does enjoy. It's not like Ben's a bland person. He's a very interesting person, but he never had, he's surrounded by people like me and Dan who let their entire lives get consumed by one all-powerful passion. And I thought what about the people that can't find that? That was Johnny's inspiration, was I can't find this thing that everyone else around me seems to have an all-consuming passion in life. And he just kind of floated from job to job and was okay at them, but never great at anything. And that's a more challenging character in some ways to write. And I just wanted to do that character because it was more challenging to write.
So that gives me a question, because obviously you say people like competence.
Yeah.
How did you find the line between competence and Mary Sue? Because obviously Mary Sue's not great.
So I disagree on Mary Sue not being great. There are definitely books, like when I read a James Bond book, I'm there for the competence. And I don't think James Bond is a Mary Sue. In fact, I don't even really like that term, but it is a useful term for saying, if the character is so competent that the problems are not actually a problem, you lose the conflict in your story and the tension, which is obviously bad. You just, for someone like James Bond or one of these characters, you need to have stakes and threats that are commensurate to their skill level. Like writing Rand al'Thor, right? Rand al'Thor was a demigod by the time I got handed the books and could destroy armies on his own. This is the problem people have writing Superman. You either have to write about the things they can't do, or you make conflicts and stakes commensurate to what they can do.
That makes sense.
It's really not as hard as we make it sound, but the problem with when you get the Mary Sue is, one, people are too good at too many things. Being too good at everything, it actually goes the other direction. We love that Samwise Gamgee is great at being loyal, right? The things he's good at, we love. But if you're also a great fighter, and also we're great with women, and also we're immediately, able to deal with, Gollum, we wouldn't enjoy Samwise Gamgee, right? Being good at one or two things, but also needing others, is a really important character attribute. So you can write very competent characters in a lot of areas, but watch out for how many you add, and it depends on your subgenre. Like Dirk Pitt's another great example. Dirk Pitt's just great at everything. Sometimes that's just fun to read. Another really great example is Quoth. Quoth is good at almost everything, but the story is set up as a tragedy in that the few things that he's bad at, he lets destroy the things he's good at. And that sort of story is wonderful to watch somebody who's great at so many things sabotage them through their own their own sense, in his case, pride and anger.
Yeah.
And it makes for a really compelling story. So that's why I think that like the Mary Sue thing sometimes is too easy a complaint because there's so much nuance in this. But the core of what you're asking is completely legitimate and genuine. Let's show off a plushie. Plushie time, right?
And did we show you the camera right above you?
No.
So just right of your microphone, they'll see it.
If I go like this?
Well, even just on the ground.
Just on the ground?
Well, I mean, you can have it lying down.
Oh, it's lying down. Okay. So, Stormfather. Here's our Stormfather plushie. Hello. This is one that it took a couple of rounds to get the Stormfather how I wanted him to look. Because he needs to be a nice plushie, but he also needs to be grouchy. Because the Stormfather is grouchy. Yay, Stormfather. His hair is quite floppy. This is one of the plushies that you can pick up. He's delightful. I really like the Stormfather. So there's a Stormfather plushie for you. He looks so soft. Yeah, they are very soft. Particularly the hair is very soft. They're made of multiple different materials, so that there's a lot of good textures and touch to these. Like I said, we knew these were going to have to be kind of expensive because, like, at max we're probably only and at max we're only going to be selling a couple thousand of each of them. And so when you have print runs that low, so we decided to err on the side of trying to make them high quality with actual clothing and different textile feels to them and stuff. And the design team did a very good job. Thank you, design team. The plushes all turned out great. So.
And by the way, if you hear a woman on the stream, that is Christy, who is over our products.
Some
She was on a little bit earlier. So.
Yep. Hello.
Are the plushies exclusive, or will you ever bring them back? I think the plan is to order some more.
Yeah, we will order some extras.
Yeah, like several thousand extra,
Several
right?
thousand
not
extra.
Like 15 extra. So my guess is that they'll be around for a little while. I don't know how fast they'll sell out, but it shouldn't be you have to get on and buy them the moment we have them in stock. Will be our goal, that you have a little time to order them. We'll have to see what the actual price point comes out. They may be a little bit more expensive after the campaign.
Yeah, we'll see. Part of that depends on the quantities we end up ordering. The higher the quantity we can order,
the cheaper we can make them.
Brings the price down, and so we'll see what quantities we end up at. But we will order extras in hopes that we can put some on the web store after. For people to be able to buy.
I did see a question in the chat asking if they're going to be at the con this year.
It'll depend on how the fulfillment of the campaign goes, but that is the goal.
The goal is, like, we won't have them for sale until
we're fulfilled.
We're fulfilled, right? But if we do get them fulfilled, which is our goal, then we'll have them at the convention. I also saw is Steve Argyle doing art for the Leatherbound this time, and yes. I believe he did kind of woodblock part illustrations like he did in all the previous ones. I can't remember if he has a full art illustration or not, but the woodblocks were really cool last time. So we intend to do that in each of the Stormlight ones if we can.
If you want to check, we have a copy right
Yeah, we have a copy. We'll have Richard,
Thanks, Richard.
pull this out. Richard's also on the products team.
Everyone say hi, Richard, even though none of them see you. Sorry.
Yes, and he's not mic'd. Richard is one of my Magic nemesis. When we're playing Magic, he's one of the better Magic players, and so it's always will I be able to beat Richard or not at our company Magic parties? Does the Cryptic plush have feet? Let's see. Let's grab Becky. Will you grab the Cryptic?
No.
Right over there. Let's see if the Cryptic plushie has feet for perambulating as they enjoy. Indeed, the Cryptic plushie has feet. Now, this one, you said that we feel like the prototype was too small, right?
Yeah, I think
like if we compare it to the Stormfather, it came out just a little too small, so we're scaling that one up.
We're scaling that one up, and there may be a few other small details added to it.
So do you have any idea what you might be doing with the Cryptic one?
I don't.
Okay. But here is the kind of the basic, and yes, indeed, has feet for perambulating, and has a nice cloak on it, and a kind of bobblish head. the plushy interpretation of how a cryptic head would look.
Does Wendell come with a chair? That's my
Wendell
question.
doesn't come with a chair. I believe the Wendell pin might have a chair on it, though.
It does.
Yes. The Wendell pin has a chair. Can I turn it the right
Yep,
way?
there you are.
There you are. The Wendell pin has a chair. So there we are. Grouchy is an understatement for the Stormfather. That is correct. Yeah, I saw the Stormfather. So I didn't miss anything. That is correct. You did not miss anything. More Cosmere cups in the future. There's a request for more Cosmere cups. You know, I have wanted to do, ever since someone gave me them as a gift, someone who had an etcher made me Cosmere pints. And I like big cups of water, so, you know, pint glasses make nice ice water for me. And I know a lot of you like your pint.
A Horn-Eater Stein.
Yeah. Well, this was like those glass cups. But,
Okay.
I would like...
I hear pint, and I think...
Yeah. Aren't they pint cups? The kind of larger, I don't know. Since I'm not a drinker, I don't know my cups very well. But we'd like to do those, I think, sometime. The problem is them being glass makes them tougher to ship, but those are kind of the thick glass, so...
But we're like, we did the Trust cups, so we're getting...
and the
you
ramen
ship
bowl.
those.
We ship those, so like that is not outside the realm of possibility for the future.
The Cosmere chick likes the hair. I assume on the Stormfather. Let's see. This design is accepted. Nice. So, yeah, I would, you know, basically, the more times you request a thing, not individually, but as a group, to the products team, they do listen. And they try to make the things that...
And we keep track of how often something's suggested.
Yeah. So voicing what you want, particularly just via the web form on my website, it gets to the team. And, yeah. The Tress Cup is still for sale, I think.
We are out of stock,
we're out
but
of stock.
we have reordered
We
them.
have reordered,
So we are
okay.
working on restocking them.
The ramen bowl? Or,
That has... I think that's not out of stock.
Okay.
You
But
can
the
still buy
Trust
that.
I love that ramen bowl.
Hey, Adam, the How It's Made video today, there's a 10 out of 10. Someone said they love that one.
Oh, perfect.
It's gotten a fantastic reception. If you haven't seen that one, Adam's team did a lot of work flying out to kind of show off how leather bounds are made.
It's a process
Yeah.
to make those books, so...
They want me to do a Stormfather impression. The problem is I can't speak in small caps. That's like to do a true Stormfather impression, you have to be able to speak in small caps, which I just can't. They've got a request for the Truth Watcher plushie. So can we grab the Truth Watcher plushie?
That's the red and white one.
Yeah. Yep.
This one is very much a prototype. I think
Okay.
the artist is anticipating some changes to this.
Okay.
So just be aware of that.
So here is the Truth Watcher plushie with the cryptic beside it. Still, the cryptic just a little bit on the small side, but idea is to kind of give a sense of the mask on the front rather than, we didn't want to add like plastic to any of these. We wanted to remain plushy. So you've got kind of the plastic on the front and the gloves and the boots and things like that. So there is our Truth Watcher, So there you are, as you have requested. We'll get, oh, this is repeating the same comments over again that I just saw. Can you scroll down? Did it scroll? Did you scroll up?
I did not. Let's see.
Like I'm getting the exact same. Yeah, it's all the way.
Yep.
Yep. So, yep.
There
Somehow
we
you
are.
scrolled that up, and then it
My
went back
bad.
to the exact same ones. So that's okay.
And
So-
Richard found the Steve Argyle pieces. If you want to show
Oh yeah,
them.
yeah. Let's show the Steve Argyle pieces. Close your eyes if you don't want to be spoiled for the pieces that you're going to get in your leather bound later this year.
Richard tells me that they're at the end of each part. So there's
Yeah.
one right there. Richard said that's his
Okay.
favorite.
Oh, he did. I do remember approving these. So here we have the Steve Argyle piece, full color piece. It is gorgeous. But he also let me find one of these woodcuts because, or did you already have those for me?
Oh, Richard says no.
No. Let me see if I can find. Well,
We want to show TikTok as well. Sorry
Yeah.
about
Oh, will you?
Yep.
I lost that one.
do.
Okay.
Oh, here, I'll let you do it to TikTok right there. And then,
Okay. This one isn't Steve Argyle. I don't think.
oh,
No, I'm pretty sure that's not Steve. I know the other one is. Is it listed as Steve? In the
You know, I was talking to Isaac, and I said, I was listing a couple of them, so maybe he.
Okay. Yeah, I know that one's not Steve.
Okay.
But I know that one is. I'm sure they appreciate that. Thanks for remembering them. We forget that TikTok's on a phone over here instead of our cameras because, TikTok.
yeah, we were hoping to get TikTok on tonight, but they make you do
Yeah.
weird things to get it on. I didn't want to do it tonight after rushing back
Yep.
from school. So
So illustrations, yeah. So we've got, 177. So end of part 1, 177. So you'll recognize this style. This is something that he pitched for us for the first one, and they turned out really well. Where they're like. As if it were a wood block, and it's what you're thinking, Richard. It's the same kind of picture, but done. Anyway, basically there's two pictures of this kind of same scene. Well, one is not exactly the same, but two pictures of Shalon with the Santhid. One where it's kind of carrying her, and one when she sees it below. One's Steve Argyle, and one's a pretty prominent piece of fan art that we loved and bought the rights to. So there we are. Artist Fool wants to know where the bad Chinese is from the Wired article. I got to tell this story. So the one thing that Utah is not great for is dim sum. You can get fine Chinese food, but for whatever reason, like we have some fantastic Indian food. Mm-hmm. We have, pretty great Mexican food, as one might expect. Some really nice fine dining Italian places, but we don't have dim sum, especially Xiaolongbao. And then a dim sum place opened in, there's like a road going down from Orem to Provo that's just like down a big hill that runs past the Barnes & Noble, where the Barnes & Noble is, and kind of just goes down. I can't remember what road it is.
State Street?
It might,
right there?
yeah, it's got to be State Street. So on State Street going down there, and a new place opened up. It's a dim sum place. And I'm like, I want to see if we actually can get a good dim sum place. Like Din Tai Fung is like my favorite. If you guys haven't ever been to Din Tai Fung, we don't have one here, but you can find it in Taiwan at Taipei 101, and they've slowly moved into the West Coast.
I ate at it last Saturday.
Yeah, were you in?
It was amazing. I was in Vegas.
Vegas. So,
and next time you're there, the spicy wontons are at least as good as
you texted me.
Yeah.
Get the Xiaolongbao, the spicy wontons, and get the chocolate dessert Xiaolongbao, which is just shockingly good. So anyway, it's really, really good. And I'm hoping to eventually get a place. And so we kind of keep a list of places that I want to go to and try. And we have so many people who want to do dinners and interviews and things like that. If they request a dinner, oftentimes it's just like, well, let's try this place. I like to be adventuresome and try new places. So we went to this Chinese food place. And the weird thing about the Wired article surrounding this is, like, the Wired article kind of makes the impression that this is like one of my favorite places that I like to go to. I'd never tried it before. We both tried it, me and Jason, who was interviewing me, and we both looked at each other, and then I said, first out of my mouth was like, I'm sorry, it's not very good. He's like, no, it's not very good. So I took him out to dessert afterward at a place that I knew was good. But it's kind of weird that the Wired article presents it as this, like, I don't know.
He had to do something.
Yeah, he had to do something. But it is kind of weird, and like, We both I know it's not very good food, Jason. I'm sorry. So if you want to try not very good dim sum, unfortunately, I doubt the place is even still there. It was empty when we went there, and I empathize with the people making it, right? Because dim sum is one of these things like the xiaolongbao.
Yeah.
They have to be fresh to be good, so you have to be constantly making them, which means that you have to have a lot of people going for it to be tasty, and it's a catch-22. How do you get people there in numbers to be making fresh dim sum?
All volume.
And so they obviously had frozen dim sum, and we're trying to bring it to us, and so I appreciate them trying, but it just wasn't quite good. Red Maple in Salt Lake does an okay one, but really there's no place in Salt Lake that I know of that we can get fantastic dim sum. So, what's my opinion on the Red Rising series? So I have not read enough Red Rising.
I will say I loved it.
What I have read is fantastic, and I will say he was super nice. The author, like I did a signing with him, just a class act. I really enjoyed chatting with him. So Pierce Brown, good folks, at least in my limited experience of doing a book signing with him, which doesn't always give me a full impression of someone, but I keep meaning to get back to it. But man, there's so much good stuff to read. But like looking online and seeing people's reviews of the later books, like you can really tell if a series is good if people are highly rating like book 7, and they are. So that's great. If you like that, you must have good taste.
Yeah. Question about Murderbot. Have you read the Murderbot books?
I have read Murderbot.
Okay.
Good stuff.
I like those.
I was working on those when I was working on the first things of Skyward, which is why I actually had initially intended to call Mbot Murderbot, and I didn't because I'm like, well, Murderbot's Murderbot. So he became Mushroombot, even though he was Mbot in my head, so I didn't want to change that. But she kind of owned that word or that name and did such a good job with it that I had no desire to try to take that away. Murderbot recommended. Anything Martha Wells writes, like everything I've read from her, I thought was really good. Even her Magic the Gathering stuff was pretty good.
Yeah, and I think she had a fantasy come out a couple of years ago. I haven't read that yet, but
I haven't actually either. But I did read her Magic the Gathering stuff. So yeah.
We have a question from TikTok here from Maddie saying, how do I pronounce Alanique from Skyward? I was 99% sure it was said Alanique.
I say Alanique. But I mean, none of us speak Erdale, so you can decide how it is. Let's grab another plushie. We'll want to get through all of these.
Yeah, and while we're doing that, Christy, there's a question wondering if the Backer Kit campaign will be delivered to the Philippines. I don't know off the top of my head.
It should be.
Should be?
Yep.
Okay.
All right, we're grabbing another plushie. Syl, here's Syl. Syl, here's our Syl plushie. This one went through a lot of designs also, and I really like how it turned out. Again, hair is nice and floppy, and
I do
very
think
soft.
they will be tacking that down.
Are you going to tack it down?
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you going to do that on the Stormfather too?
Most likely.
So it doesn't flop like that.
Yeah. Yep. For the samples, they didn't tack all the clothing in place, and they didn't tack everything down. The finals stuff should be tacked down so they don't come off and move. And
unlike Pattern, Syl has toes. But there's our Syl plushie. What's that?
Oh.
So they
TikTok
actually
as well, if you want to.
Oh yeah, TikTok it. Woo.
So our artist did request that in the next round of samples they remove the toe lines from Syl.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So
no toes.
No toe lines.
No toe lines for Syl.
A lot of people are saying they like the flop though.
They like the flop.
Well, I'm sure they can do a little snip, like because usually it's just one little stitch.
Yep.
So if you want floppy hair, here's the Stormfather there, Octavia. Octavia looking out for the TikTokers.
And I know they want to make the hair on the Stormfather a little bit poofier, so it sticks out the back a little more.
Oh, they want to poof it. Okay, that's a
Yep.
good idea.
Yep.
I like that poofing.
So that should be in the next round of samples. Should be some poofier hair.
Who would be my choice for live action, Syl or anyone? I don't have a lot of people that I have fan cast in my head. I think I actually just did a TikTok on this that Octavia might be it's posted. Go watch my TikTok on this because, I don't often cast. There's a few people I have. Once in a while, I'll cast someone. I often mention Keanu Reeves as the Lord Ruler. It's kind of like I've wanted him in the back of my head for years.
I'm going to say Julia Roberts for Syl, just because she's already been Tinkerbell, and I think that would really round out her.
But yeah, yeah. Oh, they love the Stormfather being poofier like a storm cloud. That's,
That was the original intention.
Twitch wants Kelsier back in Fortnite. I'll see what I can do. Donald has, as I've mentioned before, has left Epic. Donald was my good friend who is the director of Fortnite, kind of its creator. I say kind of because he didn't create like the single player. He's the one that took Fortnite and transformed it into
Battle Royale.
the Battle Royale. Like as it was floundering internally, he's like, all right, and he kind of took it over and rescued it.
Changed gaming.
And he was kind of the force behind changing the island and all the quirks and things of the island and coming up with all of that. He has left Epic, we'll be able to tell more of that story eventually. Left amicably, I should say. We still like all the people over at Epic, but yeah. So getting like Kelsier went into Fortnite just because Donald and I were hanging out. And he's like, well, shall we put Kelsier in? I'm like, that would be hilarious. Let's put Kelsier in. So they did. If we ever get a film, I'm sure Kelsier will make a reappearance in Fortnite. Let's see. It needs to scroll down again, Adam.
Nope, let me go over.
Yep. I don't know. Yep. Ooh, there we are. I don't know why that keeps doing that.
Yeah, that's weird because I'm not on that window.
Yeah. So what night radiator order am I? I am, I'm a bondsmith. There's a request for an Ashburn friend. We'll get to them in just a sec. We will get through them all. Yep. Well, let's Talon plushie. We'll worry about heralds another time. Here's Wendell, which we have already shown off on the thing, but Wendell is my favorite of
Mine
the
too.
plushies. Just the outfit and the styling of Wendell works so well. And Wendell's kind of, in some ways, he's very Brandon-like. He picks. I pick something maybe a little. I picked books to focus on. He picked chairs, but he shares my deep, abiding passion for something that others may think is a little bit overboard, perhaps. So, Bridge 4 uniform jacket. Christy, do you want to tell the Bridge 4 uniform jacket story?
Oh, I think you should.
So, we have been approached by multiple people wanting to do Bridge 4 uniform jackets for us, and some of them are nice. There's, it's just, they'd be so expensive. And we have this weird thing where we have trouble deciding if people would like a jacket that they could wear in everyday public that is not book accurate, because, the book accurate one looks like a military uniform, or if they would want a cosplay jacket that they wouldn't wear in everyday public, but walking that line is very hard for us to decide. So for now, we've just been like, buy your patch and put it on your jacket. See, we've got people saying here, like, this was our feeling, is like there'd be a lot of different feelings on this. And someone wanted to be very, very light touch, that it's Bridge 4. But then, like, why are you even buying a jacket from us? And can we make? Yeah. Anyway, so you can let people know. Maybe we should do a poll at some point. But yeah. Maybe we should do one. I don't know. It seems like one of those items. Like, I want to take care not to have too many high ticket items. Because I don't want to get the fandom to be like, I have to buy all the things and then they're all super expensive. Anyway.
We also like seeing people's cosplays. And
we
if
do.
we put out something, then they just buy it and they're all wearing the same jacket.
Bridge 4 style hoodie. Yeah, we've talked about that, haven't we? Like, yeah. So, what are the chances of a Lord Ruler prequel novel? Not fantastic. I planned that for Mistborn Birthright, a little bit of that for the video game that I was working on for a while, but man, video games is a hard industry. That is an industry that is, yeah. So,
Bridge 4 sandals. That's pretty funny.
will I ever be bringing the Secret Projects to Audible? Well, go check out the page of our current backer kit crowdfunding campaign, or my blog. The answer is yes. They are coming to Audible probably in about a month or so. I can't say exactly when. Reversible. They're like reversible. One side's a cosplay jacket, one side's a real jacket.
That engineering wouldn't be difficult.
Will we make spheres? This is another story.
Yeah.
We have tried for years. We have had multiple companies to us. Like, we've had everything from someone who just likes to blow glass amateurly up to like major companies that make tie-in things. And what no one can quite provide, because it doesn't feel like we have the technology yet, is spheres that will glow in the way that I want. The closest we've got are it's $50 for one sphere, maybe $100, and you set it on a thing that has a built-in battery recharger, then it glows like that. But I don't want to sell one sphere for $100. Like, if you can't get a goblet of these, why are we even doing it? So I don't know if the technology really exists for spheres yet. Maybe once batteries and like wireless or cordless recharging, whatever you call that, gets better and the prices come down, maybe like if we could even sell like a 5-pack for $50, maybe. But right now, I think it's just too expensive.
And the poll, every day won by 67%.
67. So yeah, they would rather have. Most people, but it's a pretty divided thing.
Yeah.
Most people would rather have one that's like hinting at a Bridge 4 uniform, but not an actual uniform. All right, here's the Ashspren. So Ashspren has kind of this the wispy hair and things like that, and the face is kind of relevant on this one. Kind of like the skin getting blown away is kind of the feeling that we wanted to have for this. So
Which
these
some
guys,
of the colors on this are off.
The colors are off.
That top section that looks pink should be white.
Yeah. So it's like bone.
Yes.
I've wondered that because it looks like the top is flesh and the bottom, but then it doesn't. Yeah. So.
Yep.
So they are working on that. So if you want the creepiest one, this is the creepiest one.
I think this was the first one that we got designed, possibly.
Will Lift be in the second arc of the Stormlight? Yes. Lift will be a main character in the second arc of Stormlight. So, yeah. Arc is a good way to put it, because it's not really an era. It's more like how mangas have arcs or things like that, is how I envision this. So... yeah, that's a good phrasing. You'll need to scroll me back down. It's stopped again.
You need to find it.
Yep. So, it is a lot easier to see when it's, So, sequel to Arithmetist someday. No promises when. Is Rushu the Khandra on Roshar? That's definitely a Raffo. And Mistcloak. Oh, we do get occasional Mistcloak questions. Mistcloak is one of the reasons we haven't done a Mistcloak is I imagine that every Mistborn makes their own Mistcloak. So they should all look different. I don't want to have necessarily a standardized Mistcloak. I want you guys to be able to design your Mistcloak and wear it, because that's what happened in World, is you'd be like, well, I know generally these things look like, I'll commission or make my own, and then that's what it's supposed to look like. So the Mistcloaks you make are all canon because that's how they're done. And having an official one doesn't quite sit right with me. So, lots of now guessing about the Khandra. So, Mistcloak, yes, cosplay is canon confirmed. Have I read Malazan? I have read Malazan. Malazan is, I do think, legit genius, but man, it's not for everybody. Like, it's starting that series is like getting kicked in the face. And then, he continues to just kind of kick you a whole bunch. That's Malazan. Some really fantastic characters. And a kind of a master of building a really expansive world that feels huge. So it's cool. It's like, so George kind of kicked off grimdark meets epic fantasy, right? Like that was George's thing. He took all kind of the early grimdark stuff like Elric and things like this, and he mashed it up with War of the Roses and epic fantasy sort of pacing and things like that with a large cast of characters and cutting between, which was obviously a really smart move. Then it's interesting to see Malazan kind of go a slightly different direction. I wouldn't call it grimdark, but it's definitely grim. It's gritty. And so it's like, taking that same style, but evolving it a little bit more. And I think he's really the only one who's done that, who's done the same sort of George Martin, big, epic, expansive, but also gritty sort of thing. Because a lot of the gritty stuff kind of moved back the Joe Abercrombie direction, which is kind of the shorter, low magic, what we would call heroic fantasy in the early days. And things like that. And there are, a lot of those are really good, but there's not a lot of grimdark epic. And so it's kind of cool that Malazan did that as well. It's weird but fantastic. That's a great. Josh B. First Law. Again, anything grimdark is not for everyone. But First Law, if you have a threshold for grimdark, is really good. His use of just like that grim humor, which is something that you don't see a lot from George, and definitely not from Malazan. There's just something that makes you laugh, but also laugh with a sense of I can't believe I'm laughing at this in Joe Abercrombie. That's one of the things I like about Joe. So
he's one of my favorites. I think I've read just about everything he's written.
Yeah. Joe is great. We ought to bring him out to our con sometime. He's delightful. He's one of the most fun people to be on panels with that I've ever been on a panel with. He's as witty in person as his writing is, but not as mean. So that's the great combination, right?
Yeah.
Though he was mean to me once when he made me go back and sign his books. I've told you the story, right? Yeah. The Amsterdam airport when I took a picture like I do. You guys probably heard this story before, but I took a picture of having signed my books, and his was sitting next to mine, and I'm in line to get on my flight, and he's like, Sanderson, he texts me. He's like, go sign my books, Sanderson. I'm like, nah, I'm in the line. He's like, go sign my books too. And I'd like run back to the bookstore and sign his books and take a picture and post it that I'd signed his books with my name. And I almost missed my flight because of Joe Abercrombie. He insisted that I go sign his books. So
Alistair from Twitch is wondering if you can explain grimdark.
Grimdark. What's grimdark? So grimdark gets its name from Warhammer 40K. In the grim dark future, there is no something. There's only war. There's no hope. There's only war. Something like that. There's like some quote. And basically, what we term grimdark is the kind of darker, grittier fantasy. A great example of what makes something grimdark is that the characters and things that in an epic fantasy book would be heroic, often in grimdark are what get you killed, right? Eddard Stark standing up for his morals and values, spoiler, does not go well for him because it leads to people taking advantage of him. A big kind of hallmark of grimdark is magic is scary rather than necessarily a tool that the main characters use to feel wonder. It's like you replace sense of wonder with a sense of unease, and do most of the other things the same. So kind of like the idea of magic in a grimdark book is often like the monkey's paw. you can use it, but you don't know what the cost will be, or you do know, and it's a terrible cost, and you're put into situations where you have to pay it anyway. Whereas Magic and epic fantasy kind of is about like, this is a cool, fantastical tool that provides a sense of wonder to the world. Grimdark isn't for everyone because it does tend to try to look at fantasy using more accurate historical climates. And so you're going to run into a lot of like sexual assault and a lot of grimdark. You're going to end up with people just having miserable times. And like sometimes grimdark is about finding light, what you can in these terrible times. Sometimes it's about painting all sides shades of gray and kind of therefore making morality this very complex thing that sometimes the stories that grimdark reacts against sometimes paint those black and whites a little too black and white to be realistic. And so the grimdark movement is kind of doing that. And there's definitely some really interesting things about that. Is The Witcher grimdark? The Witcher strays into grimdark now and then. The Witcher predates grimdark, but The Witcher is using a lot of those kind of, Central European mythology, kind of Grimm's fairy tale. I know it's Polish and not German, but that sort of idea that Sapkowski is reaching toward, like, hey, fairies and fae and all of this stuff is really dangerous if you look at the actual stories. And what would it be like to interact with these? So I do think The Witcher sits on the edge, particularly a lot of the stories of grimdark. It's hard to truly call it that because grimdark was coined kind of in the mid-90s after a lot of the Witcher stories have been written. So yes and no. I would call it grimdark, but it's more like a grimdark precursor. Elric is the same way. I'd call Elric a grimdark precursor. Yeah. When do I write longhand? Good question. So I write longhand when I feel like it. Sometimes when my computer isn't working. Sometimes when I'm outside. Sometimes when I just need a change. And so, like, of Stormlight 5, I wrote maybe 50 pages out of 2,000 longhand. So not a ton, but a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so here we're going to go with Reachers, Peakspren. So here is our Peakspren, kind of the way we're interpreting being all made of bronze and things like that. So if you want a Horneater style spren to be yours, the Peakspren is your choice. Right now, one of the less popular of the spren choices, definitely. Probably because we don't have a spren character that is a Peakspren. You've kind of only encountered them here and there in the later books. So there you are. And we'll get the high spren going here. So here also is our high spren. Like I said, a little bit David and Bowie inspired. I like putting the star over the eye. But they are the Skybreaker spren. So have I begun writing the Horneater novella? So no, I have not. I realized that I really wanted to save that for in between writing Mistborn Era 3 and the Elantra sequels. I wanted to be able to return to Roshar. And so I'm kind of keeping that in my pocket for when I really need to be back to Roshar, and it's not quite yet time to write book 6. That's where it is. So need more Stoneward POV. I'm saving some Stoneward POVs until the back 5. You'll notice me kind of doing that with some of the orders, just because I need to have some of the things. I need to have some things to play with as we go forward. So, and there's the question: could the high spren be Ox? Yes, that's basically what Ox would look like. the high spren is modeled after aux or auxiliary.
That's fun. Yeah.
So yes. So yeah. Thank you for responding. Yeah, my pleasure. More tall. Yes, you'll get a lot more tall. What is my shirt? This is the shirt that won our contest, our design contest for when we were doing one of the Wax and Wayne books.
Yeah.
I assume
Lost
the last
Metal.
one. Yeah, Lost Metal. Wayne's Haberdashery shirt. Do we still sell these, or did these?
We sold out.
We sold out of the Wayne's Haberdashery. Really cool design by a fan that we had a contest and we bought from them.
That was fun.
They did a really good job. So yeah.
And only a couple minutes left, really.
Only a couple of minutes rest.
Yeah.
I had to do the last of the sprint. We're getting lots of requests for the various spren. Lots of requests for ink spren, but first we will set on here. Never mind. So anyway, here we go. With a beret, kind of, not quite a beret. Will this come off when...
No,
they
it
get
should be attached.
It should be attached.
And they will we want them to do complete the embroidery under the hat. So even if the hat comes off, the full face will still be embroidered.
Okay. So I really like how this one turned out. This one's there. Her sash is coming off. So why don't we grab, just trying to think, who have we missed?
Oh, right here.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
The coloring on this
so
one
this
is
one's
way
coloring is way off, right?
Yes, it should be more black.
So this one's hard to tell because so it's a little odd. So that one was the let's see. Who is this one? This one is designed. I'm trying to count through the art because this one is not a character in the books, and so
Peak spren.
It's the so that's the peak spren.
That's the peak spren.
So so the Reacher. That's what was getting me confused. The Reacher. Right. So we had the Reacher earlier. The Reacher is the
light spren.
Yeah, but the order Will Shaper spren.
Will
Shaper spren. So I got those mixed up. So I saw that and I thought, no, this is the peak spren, but we just did the peak spren. We didn't. So
no, we didn't.
So
we did the
we
Reacher.
did the light spren, who is the Will Shaper. So that's the Stornward spren.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because they're not characters that it's so what we don't have is we don't have the corrupted spren of the Truth Watchers, because we have a regular Truth Watcher spren.
Yeah.
So I was trying to, so that moment where you saw, I was like, is this supposed to be a Truth Watcher spren, the corrupted one? No, it's not that. Is it a peak spren? No, we just did the peak spren. So that's where I was getting. So peak spren are the Horn Eater ones, and the bronze ones we saw, those ones weren't bronze. These are. No, the Reachers are bronze. These are stone.
Stone.
Yes. So peak spren, yeah. So there we go. I was just
you said
completing
it right.
those two.
When it was on camera, you said it was bronze.
Okay, yeah. So the peak sprens, but I implied that they speak Horn Eater.
Yes.
They don't. This is your Horn Eater spren. Those are the spren of the So there we go. That's where the moment where I'm like, didn't we just do this one? So so here we have. Did you already do this? So the ink spren, the colors are way off. How are we going to do these colors? Like, this is the one that seems a bit the furthest.
They're black and gray.
Mm-hmm.
Is what those ones should be, like a black. So yeah,
It does come with a sword.
I don't know why it came out brown.
Yeah. Yeah, we probably can't get that kind of mother of pearl sheen on them or things like that. Have you tried that? Probably not. It would have to not be a cloth. You'd have to do something weird with that. I don't know if that would turn out.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
So
A little hard to interpret the ink spread. I mean, this is going to be the shape of the ink spread, but the question is, what's the coloring going to look like? At least a black, and so the lighter portions will be gray, and the blacker portions will be black. So
yeah, the darker portions will be black, and the lighter portions will be a light, like a medium gray.
Yeah. Okay, there we are. So that one can go to TikTok. So there we are. What's on second? Yeah, shouldn't the ink spread be darker, like black and oily? Yes, this is kind of one of our problems.
Yeah, when they did these samples, they were doing.
I need it scrolled down again.
More structure and not necessarily colors.
Okay.
So.
Do we know when we're going to get more samples? Are they not till the end of the campaign?
We've requested them. Where there's 10 of them, it takes them a while.
Yeah.
I would love to get them before the end of the campaign, but I don't know that that's going to happen.
Okay. Favorite Discworld books other than Going Postal? The Truth and Night Watch, probably. Well, I like Night Watch better than Guards. Guards just
that's your starting
start. Yeah. Night Watch is the best of the Guards books in my opinion. It's just you have to have read Guards and like the others, Fetus, Lay, and whatever before it. So yeah.
I wish I would have read that by arc instead of release order.
Yeah. You definitely don't want to read Discworld
That's
by
what I
release
did.
order. Yeah. So, favorite kind of pizza? Double pepperoni. Pretty boring, I'm afraid. So have a wonderful night. Thank you. I appreciate that. Anyway, thank you all. Where are we? Are we wrapping
it's
up?
a little after 7.
We're done. So, hey, thank you everybody for hanging out with us. Thank you for doing the campaign. When's the end?
29th.
29th. 2 weeks from today. So next Thursday, we'll post on my channel on YouTube the reading that I'm doing, but we will also send out the text in our newsletter. So if you don't want, like I'm not a professional reader, and so you can watch me read it and not be a professional, or you can just read it yourself. You'll get the same text in the newsletter. And I do a reading of several chapters to kind of give you a feel for what this secret project is. And then Friday, we have a live stream where we'll talk about that with maybe a special guest. So be watching for that. Thank you all, and you have a very good night.